During a particularly harsh winter, my wife Helena and I decided to seek refuge at a mountain resort, a few hours away from our home. Unlike the common destinations chosen by couples in search of romance, this resort promised a unique mix of adventure and intimacy, far from the hustle and bustle of urban centers. We were drawn by the promise of a weekend tailored for couples, with activities and an atmosphere designed to celebrate love and complicity. The resort, managed by a family dedicated to hospitality, proudly displayed its rustic wooden construction, which added a cozy charm and a sense of returning to the roots. Our room, a spacious combination of 2 units with the dividing door open, offered a panoramic view of the snow-covered mountains, promising to be the perfect setting for our romantic getaway. The first night, curiously, was dedicated to a socialization evening at the resort's club, located in the basement near the dining room. Even planned as a couple's weekend, the inclusion of this event suggested an opportunity to make new friends and share stories. We enjoyed board games, chatted with other couples, and delighted in live music before returning to our room around midnight and a half. We were greeted by an unpleasant odor, an uncomfortable novelty that had not been noticed before. Helena, jokingly, accused me of having smoked marijuana, but the truth was that we were both puzzled by the origin of the smell. After a fruitless visit to the reception, a staff member confirmed the strangeness of the aroma, suggesting that an animal, possibly a skunk, could have invaded the room next to ours. The temporary solution was to isolate the rooms by closing the door that connected them. However, the mystery deepened with the persistence of continuous noises coming from the next room, a rhythmic disturbance that challenged our patience and bravery. Armed only with a broom, I ventured into the other room hoping to confront the cause of the unrest. My search was in vain until, at the edge of my peripheral vision, I noticed a tall, dark silhouette that froze my blood. The alarming discovery that we were not alone, and that the presence in the next room was human, led us to immediately alert the management. The resort owner himself, armed and concerned, confirmed our suspicions. The door to the hallway was open, the intruder had fled. It was then revealed that the resort had been facing problems with invaders who stole food and broke into rooms under the cover of night. The revelation that our romantic getaway had turned into the stage for a series of invasions not only shook our sense of security but also cast a shadow over the reputation of the idyllic resort. During a weekend when my parents needed to travel, my grandmother invited us to spend a few days at her property. I, being 15 years old at the time, and my 2 younger brothers saw the visit as a kind of summer vacation, since our parents were still hesitant to leave us alone at home for extended periods. Grandma's house, surrounded by vast fields and a dense forest, promised to be the perfect retreat for us. After an afternoon playing basketball and a peaceful family dinner night, our serenity was interrupted by an unexpected discovery. The shed door, which we had not used, was open. My grandmother, known for her tendency to dramatize, immediately expressed her concern about the possibility of an intruder. Despite my willingness to confront the situation, she begged me, with tears in her eyes, not to go out and, instead, to call the police. While we waited for the authorities to arrive, I saw a man standing on the porch step, a sight that chilled my blood. My grandmother, upon confirming my observation, panicked, fearing for our safety. The threatening presence of that stranger, a disturbing contrast to the darkness that enveloped him, kept our attention fixed until he disappeared from our sight, walking towards the forest behind the house. The police found nothing unusual in the shed and were unable to locate the man. They advised us to call them again if he reappeared, but realistically, little could be done. That night, my grandmother decided to sleep downstairs, insisting that we stay upstairs. Distracted with games and conversations, we tried to forget the incident, until a terrifying scream from my grandmother ripped us from that attempt at normality. We ran downstairs, finding my grandmother pointing to the dark office, where she swore she had seen someone. Immediately, I closed the office door, asking my brothers to support me against it while my grandmother, once again, called the police. When the officers arrived and opened the door, they found the man lying on the office sofa, calmly admitting he was seeking shelter from the night's cold. We learned that he had entered through the office window, which we inadvertently left unlocked. The man's confession and the calm manner in which he surrendered left us astonished. My grandmother, already prone to worry, became even more cautious after the incident, strengthening the house's security and teaching us a valuable lesson about vigilance and protection. 2 years ago, while venturing alone through San Diego to scratch another city off my wish list, I experienced an event that would profoundly mark my perception of safety during solo travels. I stayed at a decent hotel, close to the city center, eager to explore every corner of that new place. However, what was supposed to be a simple tourism trip quickly turned into a nightmare I could never have anticipated. On the day of my arrival, still at the hotel reception, a man, visibly older than me, struck up a conversation. He showed interest in where I was from, how long I would stay, and whether it was my first time in the city. His gesture of carrying my bags to the room seemed harmless, a kindness towards a solo traveler. However, a hotel staff member soon warned me about her suspicions. The man had spent a considerable amount of time outside the hotel before entering right after me. She suspected he was not a guest and advised me to keep my distance. The information was disturbing, but I tried not to let it ruin my day. After a few hours exploring the city, I returned to the hotel to prepare for dinner. That's when I heard knocks on the door, followed by a male voice announcing room service, something I definitely had not requested. A peek through the peephole revealed no one in the corridor. Alarmed, I contacted the reception, which confirmed no one had been sent to my room. The situation escalated further that night, after returning from a city tour. I shared my fears with another hotel employee, who promptly checked the security cameras, finding no suspicious individuals in the corridors. However, the real terror unfolded when, lying in bed and almost asleep, I felt the weight of someone on the other side of the bed. Turning around, I faced a masked man wearing a cap, clearly with malicious intentions. I fought with all my might, screaming for help until he finally gave up and fled after being confronted by a woman who knocked on the door. The police were called, and through security footage, it was confirmed that the man had used a master key to enter my room. Despite the disguise, I was almost certain it was the same man who had offered to help with my bags. The hotel management refunded my stay and allocated me to another room, but the trauma of that night stayed with me. Despite trying to enjoy the rest of the trip, the truth is that the incident left an indelible mark, a constant reminder of the dangers we can face, even in the most mundane situations. The hotel provided all necessary footage for the police investigation, but as far as I know, the man was never identified or captured. In the winter of 2018, seeking refuge from the cold reality of our daily lives, my girlfriend Claire and I decided to take a week off work to explore a charming beach resort in Mexico. With its offer of an affordable all-inclusive package, stunning pools, bars galore, and a prime beachfront location, the place promised to be the perfect setting for some well-deserved rest and an unforgettable adventure. Little did we know, however, that our search for a bit of tranquility and new experiences would lead us to confront a much darker reality. For the first few days, we immersed ourselves in the relaxing atmosphere of the resort, making the most of the unlimited drink package and the beautiful views. Encouraged by the desire to explore beyond the resort's confines, we decided to rent a car to get a better feel for the region. Despite the van driver's warnings about insecurity outside the coastal zone, we were eager for our little adventure. We opted for a modest Ford Fiesta, far from the sports cars that populate many people's dreams but perfect for our exploration. We headed south, aiming for the famous town of Tulum, only to find that reality did not match the expectations set by friend stories. After a brief visit, we decided to venture down a dirt road that led into the jungle, lured by the promise of a unique experience. However, the scenic beauty of the dirt trail soon gave way to a tense scene when we were intercepted by three men who emerged from the dense vegetation. Fear took hold of us as we realized the situation could quickly escalate into a dangerous confrontation. The demand for money and the veiled threat in the form of a knife made us react instinctively, accelerating the car and leaving behind the threat that blocked our path. Shocked by the encounter, we decided it would be best to keep the car parked at the resort, avoiding further forays into the region. However, the resort staff's recommendation to visit a nearby cenote reignited our adventurous spirit, leading us to ignore the previous day's warning signs. Following directions to the cenote, we found a paradisiacal setting that quickly turned into the stage for a new episode of terror. The sensation of being watched evolved into a direct encounter with a man who, under the pretext of guiding us, hid sinister intentions revealed by the blade in his pocket. The discovery precipitated a desperate escape back to the car, where we were confronted by a group determined to prevent us from escaping. The violence of the attack on the vehicle only reinforced the seriousness of our situation, marking the end of our desire to explore beyond the safe confines of the resort. On a cold winter night in 2019, at 19 years old, my friend, whom we'll call Mike for privacy reasons, and I decided to embark on a long car journey from Florida to Ohio. Our goal was to visit some friends and relatives, a road trip that promised laughter and cherished memories. However, as we made our way down the road, we couldn't have imagined that our journey would hold an eerily unexpected encounter. We were halfway through our trip when we felt the need to stop, stretch our legs, and grab some snacks. It was around 10:30 p.m. when we arrived at a rest stop, notable for its desolation, lit only by the dim light of a lamp post and occupied by a semi-truck and a solitary van. While Mike headed to the restroom, I distracted myself with social media, lost among photos and updates. After a few minutes, noticing Mike's delay, I sent him a message urging him to hurry up. It was then that a woman, emerging like a shadow from the night, approached me with an unexpected question. She was looking for her son, Arthur, a young man who had run away from home and who, according to her, had the peculiar habit of attacking people at that location, believing himself to be the king of that rest stop. Before I could fully process her bizarre story, a sharp scream from the restroom cut through the night silence. I ran toward the sound, my heart pounding, fearing the worst. Upon opening the door, I was met with a scene straight out of a nightmare. A tall, unkempt man was threatening Mike with a knife. Without hesitation, I confronted the assailant, who, with a maniacal gleam in his eyes, declared himself the ruler of that kingdom and stated that we would pay for our intrusion. The moment he lunged at me, a stroke of luck allowed me to knock him down, and together, Mike and I managed to disarm him. The assailant's mother, who turned out to be more lucid than she seemed, called the police while we kept him immobilized. When the officers arrived, their disdainful look revealed a familiar story. Arthur, known to the authorities for his outbreaks and threats at that location, had previously spent time in a psychiatric institution. The burning question was how he had managed to get out. As the adrenaline of the situation faded, Mike and I couldn't help but ponder how differently the night could have ended if not for the timely intervention of that woman. The trip to Ohio, planned with expectations of joyful reunions and discoveries, left us with a dark memory and eternal gratitude for having been spared a tragic outcome. It was the end of 2013, or perhaps 2014, the details blur in my memory. Time has a way of smoothing the edges of our most terrifying experiences, allowing life to continue even after events that deeply mark us. At that time, I was eager for the Christmas break at university in New York, far from my family in Bulgaria. The plan was to surprise them, take a break from the routine, and once again feel the warmth of home that I missed so much. JFK Airport was chaos, typical of the days leading up to Christmas, and the stress of the journey was already evident in the long lines and tedious wait. Eventually, I boarded the plane to Istanbul, facing 8 hours of flight in the cramped economy class. Next to me, two men, whose presence would become an unforgettable source of discomfort. One of them, in particular, immediately caught my attention. Unlike his companion, who maintained an introspective silence, this man exhibited disturbing behavior. He murmured to himself and, occasionally, his gaze would fix on me with a disconcerting intensity. I tried to focus on other things, like the TV series on my laptop, but his intrusive gaze was inescapable. Direct interaction came when he commented on my choice of entertainment, questioning the portrayal of mentally disturbed individuals in American Horror Story, Asylum. The conversation took a macabre turn as he expressed a twisted view on people who commit violent acts, putting me on high alert. His remarks on the normality of extreme acts of violence made me question exactly who was sitting beside me. The flight eventually ended, and I hurried to leave that situation behind, but the shadow of that interaction followed me, echoing in the darkest corners of my mind. The return to New York did not mark the end of that experience. Days later, a sinister note found in my bag reignited the dread of that encounter, a disturbing message revealing sinister intentions. The final revelation came through news sent by my sister, detailing the crimes committed by the man I shared that flight with, charges of violence, kidnapping, and murder in Istanbul. The reality of having been so close to someone capable of such atrocities made me rethink end-of-year travels, opting for the safety of home in subsequent Christmases. On a trip to the Bahamas at 14, with family friends, I experienced an episode that still makes me question how safe we can truly feel, even in places that promise to be havens of peace and fun. One sunny afternoon, while my friend Julia and I were busy getting henna tattoos in the hotel lobby, a man seemed to be watching our every move. At the time, his presence didn't bother us. After all, attracting curious glances during such activities wasn't uncommon. After finishing my tattoo, I decided to head back to my room to get ready for dinner. The hotel offered 2 paths to the rooms, one inside, passing various shops, and another outside, along the pool. I chose the indoor path, seeking respite from the heat. Upon reaching the elevator, I encountered the man who had been watching us earlier, already waiting. He gestured for me to select my floor first. I pressed the button but noticed he didn't select another. A chill ran down my spine, but trapped in that metal box, there was little I could do. When the elevator opened on my floor, I hurried to my room, located at the end of the hallway with a prime view of the ocean. I felt the man's gaze piercing through me, following every step I took. My intuition was confirmed when, just a few meters away from the safety of my room, he quickened his pace, trying to grab me. Instinctively, I fought with all my might, freeing myself from his grip and running to lock myself in my room. The incident was promptly reported to hotel security, who managed to locate and detain the man. It was discovered that he had been following several young women around the resort, a fact that tarnished the idyllic image I had of that tropical paradise. A few days after the incident, as we tried to move past the episode and enjoy the rest of our vacation, an unusual discovery brought new questions without answers. Exploring the hotel surroundings, Julia and I stumbled upon a hidden trail that led to an old and seemingly forgotten part of the resort. Driven by curiosity, we followed the path to a small stone building, covered in moss and surrounded by an aura of mystery. The interior of the building was cold and damp, with walls adorned with old photos of guests who seemed to watch our every move. At the back of the main hall, a partially open door revealed a dark room, where the only light came from an old projector, displaying distorted images on the wall. The confusing and disturbing scenes seemed to show hooded figures in strange rituals, with faces that vaguely resembled people we had seen around the resort. Before we could fully process what we were seeing, hurried footsteps echoed through the entrance corridor, prompting us to run back into the daylight, leaving behind the building and its dark secrets. Back in the apparent safety of our room, Julia and I exchanged glances, questioning whether we should delve deeper or simply ignore what we had found. If you enjoyed exploring these macabre narratives with me, don't forget to show your support for the channel. Leave that like to help spread a bit more chills around and, of course, subscribe if you're not yet part of our community. Here, we share a fascination for mystery, suspense, and, of course, those scares that make us jump out of our seats. Oh, and don't keep these scary stories to yourselves. Share them with friends, family, and even that colleague who claims to be fearless. Let's see if that's really true. And, of course, I want to hear from you. Which moment chilled your blood the most today? Do you have any personal experiences that could rival the stories we've shared here? Leave them in the comments. I love reading each one of them, and who knows, your story might appear here in the future. Until next time, stay safe out there, and remember, it will always be a pleasure to be here with you.